Hi friends, in the today's current affairs lecture, I will discuss the Golden Jubilee celebrations of India-Bangladesh relations. So, Golden Jubilee celebrations of India-Bangladesh relations. India and Bangladesh. And this year 2020-2021 is having a significance, and in this year of 2020-2021 we are celebrating three events. We call it as Triveni celebrations. So we are doing Triveni celebrations. So what is this Triveni celebrations as far as India Bangladesh is concerned? These three events are, first one is 50 years completed in India-Bangladesh relations. That means 50 years back we have started our relations with respect to Bangladesh. That means this is the 50th year we are celebrating the India-Bangladesh bilateral relations. That is the first incident. Second one is 50 years of the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. Bangladesh Liberation War. If Bangladesh is celebrating the Liberation War, then why India should celebrate? Why India should celebrate if Bangladesh is liberated 50 years back? We can understand, like, okay, if we are celebrating 50th year of India-Bangladesh relations, that's fine. But why we are celebrating this 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War? Because India has actively involved in the Bangladesh Liberation War. Anyway, I will discuss that. Next, third one is, this is the birth centenary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So birth centenary of, that means 100th year. So birth centenary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So this is the Triveni event that India and Bangladesh is celebrating. Why we need to celebrate the Bangabandhu centenary year, and why we need to celebrate Bangladesh Liberation War, 50th year of Bangladesh Liberation War? The point is, in these two incidents, India is so closely related to Bangladesh. And how India is involved in this, I will come to that later. But this is a golden jubilee year of India-Bangladesh relations, and along with that 50 years of Bangladesh Liberation War, and again the birth centenary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Now, so Bangladesh is our neighboring country. Bangladesh is a neighboring country, and India is maintaining a lengthiest border with the state of Bangladesh. And Bangladesh is not originally it was part of India. Later it has become the part of Pakistan. Later it has become an independent country in the year 1971. And prior to 1947, this Bangladesh is part of India. From 1947 to 1971, it was part of Pakistan, but post 1971, it got liberation from the Pakistan, and from then onwards, it is an independent state. It is an independent state. And if you really understand the India-Bangladesh relations, when you clearly understand the genesis of the country called Bangladesh, if you don't understand the historical aspect of India and Bangladesh, then you cannot understand the relations of India and Bangladesh today. Because in our subcontinent, and we are the one who helped a lot, and we are the one, earlier we were the belongs to one particular country, but later in the process of liberation we have helped a lot to this country called Bangladesh. So our relations with respect to India and Bangladesh is so close than any of the other neighboring country, to that extent I can say. Though we have the friendly countries called Nepal, Bhutan, but India and Bangladesh relations are so close, and it is expanded into various aspects. It's not only trade, it's all about culture, it's all about value system. So the point is, India and Bangladesh relations are so close. Now I'll explain a brief history of this Bangladesh Liberation War. In 1947, when Indian Union got independence, Indian Union is divided into two unions. One is Indian Union and second one is this Pakistan Union, Pakistan. So Pakistan, the present day Bangladesh was part of Pakistan. So at that point of time there were two Pakistans are there, one is West Pakistan and second one is East Pakistan, and both were under one particular country, but there is no geographical contiguity among these two unions, among these two things. That means the Western Pakistan and the Eastern Pakistan. And if you are looking into the Western Pakistan, in the Western Pakistan mostly the people, anyway the Muslims are the majority population, because of that reason only the union is divided it into two, because it is based on the religion. And in this, the language is one of the major aspect, the language is one of the major aspect as far as the Bangladesh is concerned, because in the Western Pakistan, Eastern Pakistan means present day Bangladesh, this is present day Bangladesh, this is present day Pakistan. But in Western Pakistan, the people used to speak Punjabi, Urdu, Sindhi, Pashtun. So these are the language spoken by the people of Western Pakistan. But when it comes to the East Punjab, most of the people speaks this, Bangla, most of the people speaks this Bangla. Bengali, you can call it as anything, Bengali. So this Bengali is spoken by the Eastern Punjab people, but whereas the Western Pakistan people, Eastern Pakistan people speaks Bengali, Western Pakistan people speaks Punjabi, Urdu, Sindhi and Pashtun. If you are looking into the overall population of the Pakistan, at that point of time, the people who are speaking this Bengali or Bangla is of 56.5%, 56.5%. And when it comes to this Urdu, hardly 4% of the population speaks Urdu at that point of time, and remaining people in the West Pakistan used to speak Punjabi, Sindh and Pashtun, and this is border areas with respect to Afghanistan. Now these people, we are all together along with India prior to 1947, but when the country is divided into two, this was the population of the entire Pakistan, both West Pakistan and East Pakistan. So the most of the people speaks Bengali, but after independence, when the state of Pakistan is created, they haven't recognized this Bangla or this Bengali language. They haven't recognized this Bengal as the state language. At that point of time itself, the people started agitating, and even some of the scholars, but it is a very minuscule and very minority population, pre-independence, that means in the 1947 itself, they are having some opinion that if at all this country is divided among the religious lines, then this East Pakistan and West Pakistan cannot be clubbed, because the cultural aspects of this East Pakistan people and the cultural aspects of this West Pakistan people is something different. There is a huge disparities among the cultural aspects of these people. And at that point of time they said, if at all you clubbed, you must give priority to this Bengal language and to this Bangladesh people, but not to this. So that such diverse opinions were there. Such diverse opinions were there, but anyhow that is a minuscule and very minority. So anyhow the country is divided into two. But these people started asking, this Bangla or the Bengali language should be declared as a state language. Unfortunately, Pakistan has not done. In the year 1952, there was a lot of killings happened because these people started agitating against the Pakistan government to declare this Bengal as the one of the official language, and they could not do, and moreover they have involved in this mass killing of the people of Bangladesh, the people of present day Bangladesh. And in the year 1954, the general elections were held in the state of Pakistan. In the year 1956, the Pakistan government has declared this Bengal or Bangla as one of the state languages. And after announcing this Bangla as one of the state language, the people of Bangladesh or the people of present day Bangladesh has started claiming for many rights, including political, social, cultural, economic, everything. And that agitation has continued in a different form. And it has continued in 1962, 66, 69. So that means throughout the history of Bangladesh since its independence, in one or other form, the Eastern Pakistan people have started claiming their own cultural rights, started claiming their own autonomy in the entire state of Pakistan. Because these people has given lot of importance to Urdu, and these people used Urdu or Arabic script, but these people use a different language, and it's not about the language and script, but when it comes to the Bengal in the United India, you can understand how intelligent they are, how active they are. But when it comes to the Western Pakistan, their cultural identity and aspects are something different. But just because they are Muslims, they have united. And even at the time of independence also, the then British Governor General said, I am dividing a country like this, but this may not survive more than 25 years. And it has not survived for more than 25 years. Immediately in the 1971 itself, it got liberated from the Pakistan. Now I will explain the sequence of the events that led to the liberation of Bangladesh. But you try to understand that this issue has been continuing since independence from 1947 onwards. Okay. Now, the matter has reached to the climax with the 1970 elections in the state of Pakistan. So the general elections were held in the Pakistan in the year 1970. That means this is the general election 1 year. They are going on in the process of elections. They have conducted elections in the year 1970 in the month of December. And in that election, the person who is representing the Bangladesh or the present day Bangladesh is Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and Sheikh Mujibur Rahman got 167 seats in that Parliament of Pakistan, and whereas the rival Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, he is able to secure only 86 seats. That means this is the majority, and the majority of the seats won by the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And if you are looking into this Bangladesh, more than 99% of the seats from the East Pakistan has won by the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And he also won some seats in the West Pakistan, but most of the seats, 99.99% of the seats of the East Pakistan won by the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in this the present day Bangladesh or East Pakistan. So Now this led to the overall majority in that Pakistan National Assembly, or you can call it as parliament or whatever it may. But in that Pakistan National Assembly, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman has won the majority. But at that point of time, the president of Pakistan, Yahya Khan, and even the Pakistan army don't want the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman to become the prime minister, though he have the majority. And they haven't allowed it. They haven't allowed it. And they made Zulfikar Ali Bhutto as the prime minister of Pakistan. Then immediately people started a civil disobedience movement, because the Bengal people, they are already active and they know what is this entire agitations and all, and they are intellectual people, and they have started a civil disobedience movement. And in retaliation to that civil disobedience movement, the Pakistan army and as well as the Pakistan president, and even at that point of time the Pakistan government has started suppressing the whatever the movement by the East Pakistan people. Literally under the aegis of General Tika Khan, for 2 months it was a genocide. Then under the aegis of General Tika Khan, it was a genocide for around 2 months, and that genocide has started on 25th March 1971. 25th March 1971. We call this operation as an Operation Searchlight. Operation Searchlight, ordered by the President Yahya Khan at that point of time. Because why I am explaining this Operation Search, it was started on 25th March 1971, because in the 1970 December elections completed and it is continued for 2 months. This date is having a very significance as far as India is concerned, and especially India's northeastern states are concerned. Whether you consider this Assam migration issue, that means to whom you need to admit as an Indian citizen and to whom you should not admit as an Indian citizen, the date was 24th March 1971. Why this date has chosen by the government of India? Because from 25th March 1971 onwards, under the aegis of General Tika Khan, Pakistan has started an Operation Searchlight program, and it is completely a military, crackdown. It's a completely military crackdown. Military crackdown in the sense, now they have killed so many people, and especially the agitators. And there are some reports like in one night itself, they have killed around 7,000 people. Around 7,000 people got killed in one night. And according to the official estimates, under this Operation Searchlight, around 30 lakh people got killed. 30 lakh people got killed by the Pakistani forces in the present day Bangladesh, and around 10 million people fled from this country. 10 million people fled from this country, that means around 1 crore. And where they went, and most of the people has entered into India, because Bangladesh is having a border with almost many of the northeastern states, whether it is West Bengal, whether it is state of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura. So they are having the border and they have entered. That is the reason why the mass migration to India happened after this 25th March 1971. That is the reason why, to know whether you are an Indian or not, or whether you are an illegal migrant, we have chosen this particular date. Especially in the case of this NRC of Assam, and also with respect to this Assam Accord, we have taken this date, because on the next day there was a massive crackdown done by the state of Pakistan, and that led to the mass flood of the people of Bangladesh, the present day Bangladesh, into India. Okay. Now So many people are tortured, women are molested, both writers, students, professors, intellectuals, people, everyone is harassed and killed. Around 30 lakh people got killed, and the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman has arrested and taken into an unknown destination in the western Pakistan. We don't know where he was at that point of time. It's something like a reign of terror. That means they are terrorizing the people of East Pakistan. Who? The Pakistan government at that point of time. They have burned the villages. And even the Bangladesh has started a voluntary guerrilla war, a guerrilla force called Mukti Bahini. Mukti Bahini. We can call it as Mukti Vahini also, but anyhow, Mukti Bahini or Mukti Vahini is an underground guerrilla force. Later, Indian government has started giving training to this Mukti Bahini also. Now, India is keenly observing the situation, because by this time Indira Gandhi has already won the elections with a massive majority, and she is now with a highest confidence, and her confidence is reached to the celestial height, and she wanted to teach a lesson to the Pakistan just by considering this as an opportunity, because Pakistan by that time has already attacked on India twice, in 1947 and in 1965. In 1965. And in both the cases, okay, the first case it went to the United Nations, but in the second case we have defeated the Pakistan. But yes, because Pakistan has become something an irritating force in its neighbor, so the government of India want to teach a lesson to the Pakistan. Now the Indian government has started giving an active support to the agitators of Bangladesh, and India has supported the Bangladesh liberation from the state of Pakistan. And in India also, in India there was a wave of sympathy for the people of East Bengal and a strong demand for a swift action against the Pakistan. So even the people in India also has showing lot of sympathy towards the Pakistan, and there are some agitations, like there are some dharnas happened in India also, that the government of India must intervene into this issue and it must liberate Bengal, the present Bangladesh, from the then Pakistan. Now India has carefully planned this entire operation. India has not done it in a hurry, and India has really planned in a very careful manner, because this is happening in the 1971 in the month of April, May, June. These are the months that is this entire massacre is happening. Now this May, June, July, these are the monsoon months. And there are so many rivers and rivulets are there in the state of Bangladesh, and if India wages a war against the Pakistan in the present day Bangladesh territory, then it will be very difficult for the Indian soldiers to fight in that whatever that rivulet and river region, because it is something like a wetland region. So monsoon is not a better season to fight a war against the state of Pakistan in the Bangladesh territory, that means in the then Bangladesh territory. So that is why we don't want to start our thing in monsoon. So we have not immediately started, but we have chosen winter as a very strategic time to fight against the Pakistan, because if it is winter now, it is very easy for us to stop the Chinese entry into this Bangladesh territory, because they have to cross the Himalayan, and crossing the Himalayan in the winter season is very difficult. That is the reason why in order to cut the supply from the China, we have choose a winter to attack on the Pakistan in the territory in the present day Bangladesh. Okay, so we have chosen a winter, and moreover, apart from that, we have given a clear instruction to the military, and we have made the military completely prepared for this war, and we have gave instruction to both military, navy, and also air force. And at that point of time, we have created a sympathy towards the Bangladesh cause, because lot of atrocities are going on. Even United Nations is unable to accept it because of the American support to the state of Pakistan. Even today, United Nations has not categorically condemned the genocide that was happened in the state of Bangladesh in the year 1971. 1971. But anyhow, India is able to gather, or India is able to mobilize that sympathy from the other countries towards the state of Bangladesh or towards the state of that eastern Pakistan at that point of time. Now, India has also concluded an Indo-Soviet treaty. Indo-Soviet treaty. This is one of the very important treaty, and this is one of the India-Soviet friendship treaty. This is one of the very important agreement in independent India 1971. Why? Because why it is important means, after independence, Jawaharlal Nehru has started a movement called non-alignment movement. That means India, along with some of the developing countries or third world countries, they don't want to align with any of the group, either it is a capitalist group or communist group. But in the year 1971, Indira Gandhi has signed an Indo-Soviet friendship treaty, and according to that treaty, if any country is attacking India, Soviet should consider it as it is attack on the Soviet, and it must come to the rescue of India. Likewise, if any country is attacking the Soviet Union, India must consider as this is an attack on India, and India must go and help the Soviet. That means it is something, a military agreement. It is a military agreement, but we are against to that military agreement till this point of time, but we have concluded an Indo-Soviet friendship treaty, because if I involve in a war with the Pakistan, then America may come in support of the Pakistan. Then if I have a treaty with the Soviet Union, then Soviet Union can come to my rescue, so that the power will be balanced. Now I can fight against the Pakistan in the eastern Pakistan region. So with that intention, we have concluded an agreement, Indo-Soviet friendship treaty, in the year 1971, and in the August we have concluded an agreement. That means we are making a ground prepared for the war. We have chosen winter as a time, and Indo-Soviet friendship treaty we have signed, and also we are gathering the sympathy towards the state of Bangladesh, and also we are preparing our forces, our armed forces. Now, along with that, India has also given a military training on Indian soil, and it is not only military training, we have supplied both money, material, military equipment to this Mukti Bahini. So, a lot of Mukti Bahini guerrillas have taken training, and we have also assisted something to this Mukti Bahini. That is how we have helped in the Bangladesh people in their war for liberation. And we initially so reluctant to act against the state of Pakistan. We don't want to start a war, but we have prepared every ground. We gather the international support. We have prepared our own forces. We are started giving training to this Mukti Bahini, and we are giving both money and material and everything. But initially we are so reluctant to start, or we are so reluctant to attack first. But anyhow, this attack has not started by India, but Pakistan has collected all the intelligence. They came to know that India is ready to do the war. Now why can't we start the war? So on the 3rd December 1971, on 3rd December 1971, Pakistan Air Force launched a surprise attack on 8 military airfields in the western Indian part. So Pakistan has started attack on 8 military airfields in the western India. Because what they thought is, if we are able to attack these airfields, then we can create a damage to the Indian Air Force, so that once we have created the damage to this Air Force at the India, then India will try to attack, and later we can simply take this issue to the United Nations, and so that United Nations can intervene and we can stop the war. So that is what their intention. So to create a damage to Indian Air Force and make this issue at the United Nations to secure United Nations intervention, for that reason Pakistan has started an attack. But immediately when Pakistan has attacked on India 3rd December 1971, then India has started, or India has waged a war against the Bangladesh, against the Pakistan, and both Indian Army, Indian Navy and Indian Air Force has actively participated in this entire liberation war. And at this point of time, even we have started a joint command with the help of this Mukti Bahini. So Mukti Bahini and Indian armed forces, we both unite together and we fought against the state of Pakistan. And even at that point of time, United States of America tried to bring a resolution in the United Nations Security Council to stop this war, but it was vetoed by the USSR, because at that point of time we have already signed a friendship agreement, and because of that friendship agreement this USSR has vetoed that, and United Nations could not intervene into this issue. And even America has ordered, at that point of time American President was Richard Nixon, then Richard Nixon has ordered a 7th fleet, a nuclear aircraft carrier, to attack on India, and it came so close to the Indian coast, it came so close to the Indian coast, but at that point of time again the USSR nuclear submarine has entered into the Indian water, and they have saved us, they have saved us. And with this ferocious attack, and even the Indian Navy has started attacking or the bombed in the area of Chittagong, the area of Cox's Bazar, even in Karachi, that means both on western side and Indian side. And at that point of time the Indian Navy is able to successfully attack the Pakistan naval this war fighter called Ghazi. So that means lot of the fight happened between India and Pakistan, but finally 3rd December war has started, and the Army Chief General Manek Shah, at that point of time our Army General, the General Manek Shah has surrendered the Decca on 13th December. That means he announced that we have able to capture the Decca on 13th December, and before this things happened, on 6th December itself, India recognized the state of Bangladesh. India recognized the state of Bangladesh. In the 1971 6th December, India recognized the state of Bangladesh. Now on 16th December 1971, then India has announced that they won the war against the Pakistan. On 17th December, India has announced a unilateral ceasefire. 1971, India has announced a unilateral ceasefire. So 3rd December they have attacked, and immediately we started a war, and on 6th December we have recognized the state of Bangladesh. On 13th December we have captured the Decca. On 16th December we announced that India has won a war against the Pakistan, and on 17th December we have announced a unilateral ceasefire. And at this point of time, that means on the 16th December 1971, we are able to capture 9,000 square kilometers of Pakistan territory, even 93,000 armed forces as prisoners. And later in order to negotiate with this, in the year 1972 there was a Simla agreement we have signed. The agreement was signed between Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and the then Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. We are agreed to give this 9,000 square kilometers and 93,000 prisoners to the Pakistan, but whenever we are surrendering this particular land, the key positions in the Kargil area we kept with ourselves, and we have given that remaining area, and in return they have recognized the state of Bangladesh, and even Pakistan agreed that any bilateral issues between India and Pakistan will be resolved bilaterally. No third country is allowed to enter into this issue, and no third country should allow to enter into this issue. And we have started recognizing this line of control, LOC, that means the ceasefire line after this 1947 the war. Whatever the internationally recognized this LOC line, this LOC line need to be permanent, and you should not extend beyond this LOC, but the issues between India and Pakistan must be resolved only bilaterally. So that agreement we have signed. But anyhow, we have liberated the Bangladesh because we have given monetary support, we have given a support in terms of equipment, we have given in support in terms of military, and our military itself went to the territory of the Bangladesh, and we have liberated the state of Bangladesh. That means you try to understand what type of sacrifices that India has made, what type of sacrifices that India has made. And from the for Pakistan side, around 88,000 people got killed and 25,000 wounded, and when it comes to India also, lot of casualties are happened to the Indian side also, and at that point of time, when we are attacking the Pakistan in Bangladesh territory, the entire world started depicting India as an aggressor, and they wanted to take an action against India in United Nations Security Council. But at that point of time, USSR has helped to India. So literally because it involves our own interest, but it is India liberated the Bangladesh from the clutches of Pakistan. Because before you study India, before you start studying India-Bangladesh relations, you must understand what is the role of India in creating the state of Bangladesh. What is the role of India in liberating the state of Bangladesh from the Pakistan? You have to understand, because our relations are not simple. We were one country prior to 1947, and 1947 to 71 a little gap, but in the 1971 we ourselves involved and give both moral, material and every sort of support, and we ourselves completely involved and enter into the territory and fought against the state of Pakistan and in support of Bangladesh. So that is how India has helped the state of Bangladesh in liberating herself. And 12th January 1972, the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman has released, and later he became the Prime Minister of the state of Bangladesh. And from then onwards we are maintaining good relations. But the main problem with the state of Bangladesh is, if the political parties changes, that means the political parties who comes to the power, if they changes, our relations are getting affected. But anyhow, the present day government in the Bangladesh is maintaining a cordial relations with the state of India. See, now if I want to study the present day relations, okay, this was the history, and by keeping this history in mind, we need to write the answer, or we need to understand the relations between India and Bangladesh. But when it comes to the present day relations, where are we? So I am not giving the details of history what happened in the last 50 years, but I will give some of the recent examples so that you can understand how better we are maintaining our relations, and what are the different areas where we can improve. See, in the year 2015, we have signed a land boundary agreement, and that land boundary agreement got fulfilled through a constitution amendment, 100th constitution amendment. So what is this constitution amendment? That constitution amendment to transfer some of the territories which belongs to Bangladesh but under the control of India, and some of the territories belongs to India but under the control of Bangladesh. So that agreement was signed in the year 2015, and we are able to exchange the territory between India and Bangladesh by amending our constitution, because we don't want to create any problem to that to our neighboring country, and whatever the issues we must resolve it. So that is the reason why we have signed an agreement. This is a very good move in relations between India and Bangladesh. Second one, border management. Border management. Though we are having some sort of problem, but now we are able to successfully manage this India-Bangladesh border. Earlier it used to be cross-border movement of people, forfeiting currency, and even drug mafia, even some of the anti-social or extreme elements used to come, and even the trafficking of women, trafficking of animals. But still today to some extent it is continuing, but the point is we are able to manage our border so successfully, because it is a 4096.7 kilometers of border, and this border we are able to maintain. In some parts of the border it is very difficult to access that region, and there we are getting some problem, but otherwise we are maintaining a border in a better manner. Full coordination we are in full coordination with the Bangladesh forces, and even some of the separatist forces of northeastern India used to take shelter in the state of Bangladesh, but now the Bangladesh is successfully containing the anti-Indian forces. They are removing the anti-Indian forces, they are removing the basis for the anti-Indian forces from the state of Bangladesh. So on that aspect we are successfully cooperating with the state of Bangladesh. Next, even we have established a joint River Water Commission, Joint Rivers Commission. So what is the Joint Rivers Commission? Immediately in the 1972 itself we have established this Joint Rivers Commission. So the Joint Rivers Commission is used to work on the sharing of water between the two countries called India and Bangladesh, because around 54 common rivers that are flowing between India and Bangladesh, because some rivers are started their origin in India and they are entering into the Bangladesh. Likewise we are having around 54 common rivers are there. Padma, Feni, this Teesta, Brahmaputra, like many rivers are there. So we have established a joint river commission, and we have successfully agreed on an agreement in the year 1996 to how to share the waters of river Ganga or river Padma, because they call it as Padma, we call it as Ganga. So that river water also we have successfully implemented. Next, and another important area is Bangladesh is India's biggest trade partner in South Asia, because in South Asia we are having other countries called Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. So but in this, if you compare with all other countries, the Bangladesh and India trade is very high. Bangladesh and India trade is very high when you compare with the all other your South Asian partners. The trade is around $9.4 billion of trade we are doing, but in that the trade is favorable to India, because India is exporting around $8.2 billion. These are the exports of India, and $1.2 billion we are importing from the state of Bangladesh. It is in favor to India, because we are doing more exports. So it is the highest trade partner country in the South Asian region. Next point, SAFTA, South Asian Free Trade Agreement. It was signed in the year 2005. So it was a free trade agreement among the South Asian members, and we have extended this to state of Bangladesh in the year 2011. Once you have signed this agreement means, then you can give a free access to the goods of Bangladesh or with whatever the country have signed. At the same time, India will also get that free access to that respective country, and we have signed that agreement SAFTA in the year 2005. Next, See, there are different railway links are there from the India to Bangladesh, because that connectivity is very, very important. And in the year 2008, we have started an express called Maitri Express, Kolkata to Dhaka, we have started a Maitri Express. In the year 2017, we have started Bandhan Express. And recently in the year 2021, we have started another Maitri Express between India and Bangladesh. It is between Haldibari and Chilahati. Between these two regions we have started, sorry, this is not Maitri Express, this is Mithali Express. So Mithali Express we have started between Haldibari and Chilahati, between India and Bangladesh. Haldibari is in India, Chilahati in Bangladesh. And even the power lines, we have laid the power lines to the Bangladesh, because now India can supply power to the Bangladesh and we can take it from the Bangladesh also. But anyhow, India is having huge amount of power, but India is laid a power line connectivity to the state of Bangladesh. And even we have started a joint programs in the state of Bangladesh with the third country, and with the help of Russia we have started a Rupur nuclear power project. So it is a joint coordination of India plus Russia plus Bangladesh. So India, with the assistance of Russia, we are constructing a Rupur nuclear plant in the state of Bangladesh, so it will provide some sort of electricity to the state of Bangladesh. Next, even when it comes to the river water sharing, recently we have signed an agreement, use of Feni river of Bangla for the Tripura people, because this Feni is a river which originate in the state of India and it enters into the Bangladesh, and there actually by constructing a dam, we want to utilize the water for the drinking purposes of the people of Tripura, and for that we have signed an agreement with the state of Bangladesh to use the Feni river water for the drinking supply for the people of Tripura. So this is one more important aspect. Next, bus services. So there are many bus services that are operating in between India and Bangladesh. So next, bus services from the state of Bangladesh to the state of India. And when it comes to these bus services, the Dhaka, one of the important bus services are Dhaka, Shillong and Guwahati. This is one bus services we have already started in the year 2015. Next, Kolkata, Dhaka and Agartala. So this is another bus service that we have started. So Kolkata, Dhaka, Agartala, this is another bus service we have started. And recently we have started another bus services between the Dhaka, Siliguri, Gangtok to Dhaka again. Next, another one is Dhaka, Siliguri, Darjeeling, Dhaka. So that means the bus services are there between India and Bangladesh, and train services are there between India and Bangladesh. A power line communication is there between India and Bangladesh. A trade agreement is there between India and Bangladesh. And already a high amount of trade is happening between India and Bangladesh, and a joint river commission is there between India and Pakistan. And even we are constructing a bridge on this river Feni with the in cooperation with the state of Bangladesh. That bridge on Feni, we call it as Maitri Setu. So Maitri Setu is a bridge on Feni, river Feni. River Feni originates in the southern part of Tripura and it enters into the Bangladesh. From there it joins with the Bay of Bengal. Next, even India extended recently a credit line. India extended a credit line of $8 billion to the state of Bangladesh. So that means we are good at providing the assistance to the Bangladesh. And during the COVID-19 period, we have supplied lot of material, like whether it may be mask, it may be hydroxychloroquine tablets, or it can be RT-PCR kits, and even under our vaccine diplomacy, we have given lot of vaccines as a gift to the state of Bangladesh. We have supplied to many countries, and in that Bangladesh is our neighbor, and we have gifted vaccines to the state of Bangladesh during COVID-19. And recently we have started a border post called Petrapol Benapol. So Petrapol Benapol. So this Petrapol Benapol integrated checkpost we have started, and in order to make sure that the trade will happen easily. So that integrated checkpost we have started. And even India is developing SEZs in the state of Bangladesh, because Bangladesh want to develop, and further they have started some new economic cities or the financial cities, and in that India wanted to invest its own money, and India want to develop some of the SEZs. Now India is developing. One is Bangladesh flagship industrial city. They are going to construct a Bangladesh flagship industrial city. In that India is developing some SEZs, and even the Bangabandhu Sheikh Majboor Shilpa Nagar they have constructed. In that also India has invested some money to develop some of the SEZs. Apart from India, China, Japan, every country is investing, but India is also investing because our relations are so close. We wanted to be part of the developmental trajectory or the developmental history of Bangladesh. So that is what we want. That is the reason why we are investing. So apart from this SEZs and border management, river water sharing, and also the train services, bus services, power supply relations, energy relations, we are also maintaining a good cultural relations with respect to Bangladesh. Cultural relations, because after all they are all at one point of time part of India, and now today maybe the religion is different, but maybe our nationalities are different, but at one point of time we have shared a common culture, and that cultural links and people to people contact strong with the state of Bangladesh. And Indira Gandhi Cultural Center at Dhaka is playing a very important role in maintaining the cultural links with respect to India, either whether it is promoting yoga, or they are promoting in a languages like Hindi, or they are promoting a Hindustani music, or whether they are promoting the different dances of India like Kathak, Manipuri, everything. And people to people contact is at the highest level, because we are running a different train and bus facilities, and even they can easily learn our culture, they can easily respect our culture, because lot of Hindus were there in the Bangladesh, and even they are celebrating lot of Durga festivals and all. So that means the cultural contact between Bangladesh and India is very high, and we are promoting that. Even people to people contact is also very high, and that too their ancestors and our ancestors are same, because at one point of time we are belonging to one country. So that is how we are maintaining a very good relations with the state of Bangladesh. And recently, to start this Triveni Sangam, Prime Minister of India has attended the program, and our President of India has went to state of Bangladesh, and he has involved in this program of Triveni celebrations. But And apart from this, we are also doing the military exercises. So whatever the military exercises we are doing with the state of Bangladesh, But the point is, okay, we are maintaining a relations with respect to Bangladesh in a very good manner. But the point is it really so success in maintaining the relations with the state of Bangladesh, or are we getting any problem in maintaining relations with the Bangladesh? See, there are some problems are there. They are not such a major problem, but still we need to consider it as some of the glitches are there in respect to the Bangladesh relations. See, one is, as explained about the SAFTA, we are not implementing the SAFTA at a full-fledged level, and the level of utilization, the potential of SAFTA is very high, but unfortunately India unable to use this SAFTA not only with respect to Bangladesh but with respect to other countries also. So we need to expand this SAFTA and we need to make use out of this, and we need to improve the trade relations with respect to the state of Bangladesh and along with all other South Asian countries. But the trade of $9 billion is not worth enough. We can do, because there is a lot of potential to do more amount of trade with the state of Bangladesh. That is one glitch, still we haven't addressed it. Next one, border killings. See, border killings is another aspect. Because now some of the people started moving from this side to that side, and they are involved in trafficking of cows especially, and some people are illegal migrants because of one or other reason. Sometimes it is lead to the killing of the innocent people. That is also one of the aspect that is creating some sort of problem. Next, illegal drug trafficking. Though we have contained to some extent, but still it is continuing. This drug trafficking is still a present issue, and because we are so closely connected to this golden triangle of the Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, this is a golden triangle where they will produce lot of these drugs and all, and they will come from the state of Bangladesh, and also they can come from the state of Myanmar, and so that problem is also happening. Next, this Teesta River issue is very, very important, because though we have a joint commission, though we are able to settle the disputes on the river sharing of Ganga, but when it comes to the Teesta River, we are unable to complete this agreement process, because in India also the West Bengal is concerning more with respect to that. So in order to fulfill the federal aspects of the Indian Union, sometimes it has become a problem for making a good relations with respect to the Bangladesh. But anyhow, the point is, we are unable to succeed in bringing a Teesta agreement which is acceptable to the both the parties, both India and as well as the Bangladesh. That one issue is still going on. Next, the another important issue is this NRC CAA aspect. So what is this NRC CAA aspect? This NRC CAA is dealing about the citizens of India. Suppose if a person is not a citizen of, now this process is to decide who are the citizens of India and who are not the citizens of India. Now the point is, okay, you have conducted NRC in Assam and you want to conduct CAA at the national level, but we haven't started that experiment. But anyhow, once you do with NRC and CAA, NRC in Assam anyhow completed, CAA is going to start. But the point is, okay, after this exercise, whether you implemented the one state level or whether you implemented the national level, but anyhow, ultimately you will get some number who are not belongs to India, they are not Indian citizens. Now what will you do with that Indian citizens? Will you send it away? And if at all you want to send most of the people are from the Bangladesh, because at that point of time from the 1971 onwards, the people have started migrated to India in waves and waves. So Now if you want to send it to their own respective country, then will that country is ready to accept these people? And unfortunately that country is Bangladesh. So but though we are maintaining like NRC and CAA is a process which is completely internal to the India, and we have given that assurance to the Bangladesh that no, we are not concerning with you, you don't have any problem with this, it's on our internal process. But the point is, in the internal process, if you find someone as a foreigner, what will you do? Will you send it to their respective country? Is it possible to do so after 40 years or 50 years? We don't know, but that point is creating some sort of problem in between Bangladesh and India relations. Bangladesh and India relations. Next one is the non-tariff barriers. Non-tariff barriers. So non-tariff barriers in the sense, we are not imposing any, there is no tariff problem as far as the external trade with respect to Bangladesh is concerned. That means tariff points we are okay, but non-tariff points, non-tariff points is I don't allow this product, this product is manufactured because of child labor, or this product is not of quality, you haven't maintained proper packaging, we haven't maintained proper records. So likewise this non-tariff trade barrier is also one of the important issue with respect to the Bangladesh. Next, the one of the big issue is the China factor in the South Asian region is a very important thing, because China is having huge amount of money and China is now an economic power, but with that economic power what it is trying to do is trying to fund the projects in all the neighboring countries of India, especially in South Asia, and now they are increasing their presence in this state. That is one of the issue, because now Bangladesh is also moving so close to the China, and at one point of time China also wanted to become the member of this SAARC, that means South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, our own South Asian group, but India has successfully objected the Chinese entry into that. But China has become a very big problem. That is where we need to, because China is bringing a lot of investment. China and Bangladesh relations, both in terms of trade and other aspects, it is increasing. But the point is, we are not saying like Bangladesh should not maintain any relations with the China, but maybe the Bangladesh and China relations are transactional in nature, but India Bangladesh relations are not just transactional. We are a value based relations are there. That means our relations are historical, our relations are having a common culture, our cooperation is long term, and we are helped each other in terms of crisis. And you have seen how India has taken a pain to liberate the Bangladesh from the state of Pakistan, and people to people contact is there, cultural contacts are there, military cooperation is there. So and common value system we have. So these are the relations with respect to India and Bangladesh. So that means though they are maintaining China, but if India maintains properly, if India able to address it properly, then we can really maintain the balance in the state of Bangladesh, and even to some extent we can tilt Bangladesh to our side. That is the possibility, because not only in terms of economic relations, but in terms of other relations also we are maintaining a good thing. But there are some glitches like non-tariff barriers, NRC, CAA, this border killing, Teesta disputes. These are some of the issues that we need to address. But the point is, the relations are not so great, but yes, comfortable level we are maintaining good. But there is a more potential to explore, and we need to do that. Aspect as far as India and Bangladesh relations are concerned. So in the year of this 2021, or the 50th year of Indo-Bangladesh relations, or the 50th year of the Bangladesh Liberation War, we need to again think once, or we need to again set right our own targets and our own view with respect to the Bangladesh, because though we are maintaining a good relations, but some of the external factors are influencing the regional relations. So now on the eve of this Diamond Jubilee celebration of India and Bangladesh relations, India again, by focusing on this neighborhood first in a serious manner and try to bring good relations and try to use the potential factors that are responsible to make our relations in a to mold our relations in a better manner. So India must try for that. So this is something about India and Bangladesh relations. India and Bangladesh relations. Thank you.
Amrita IAS Academy.